Hello, my loves. Welcome to the Manifesting Happiness podcast with myself, Esther, aka Miss Manifester. On the podcast, we love to talk all things consciously creating your best life. And today I am joined by my gorgeous friend, Lyn Penman. Hey,
Hello, thanks for
Lyn.
having me.
Thank you for being here. Lyn is up in Scotland, so she's just got this beautiful, I'm going to say dulcet tones, dulcet Scottish tones that I
I
could just
hope I hope everybody can understand me.
we'll have to do like, I don't know, like a little translator, if that's even a thing. Let's
It
give
is.
let's give Lyn an intro and give her her dues. So Lyn Penman is an anxiety therapist and author of the Now Step. I will add, specializing in solution focused therapy and mindfulness based cognitive therapy. We're going to talk about anxiety today because so many people suffer with anxiety. And if you've been following me in the podcast for a while, you will know that I am not about toxic positivity and just suppressing feelings. I get anxiety as well. I'm not going to say that I'm an anxiety, sufferer or that I've got it right now, but when certain things are going on in my life, I absolutely suffer with it and I get it quite physically. It really manifests in my body. And obviously, Lyn, you've been on this journey as well. Share with us kind of like, I know this could be like a huge question, but what has been your yeah, how long you got? What's your journey with anxiety been like so far?
Oh, Jings, it started a way back. Well, to be honest, probably it's like a lot of people that are your listeners. Probably when you start to look back, you realise that anxiety's probably always been something that I've had even since I was a child. And a lot of it's probably been driven from my mum being that kind of helicopter parent and being like, oh, don't do this and watch you don't do that next thing. And I always remember obviously feeling a little bit anxious. But for me, I had four children in 6 years. No, when I think back to it,
It's a
I had
lot.
four children in 6 years, and at that time I had been a midwife, and obviously I had all these expectations about what it was going to look like having these babies, and it was totally traumatic, right? Like the whole breastfeeding was traumatic, the whole having these newborns like was really, really traumatic, and it had a massive detrimental effect on my mental health at the time. And I think that is when I would first say, so that's going back, what, 15 years ago now, that was probably when I would say my anxiety and my panic disorder started to get really, really out of control, in that I was just so overwhelmed. I was continuously in this cycle and this loop of these anxious and negative thoughts, like about my babies dying in their sleep and what songs I would play at their funeral at night time.
Oh
And
my gosh.
if like my mum was wanting to take them out for a walk in the pram, and like catastrophizing and playing out all these like car crashes and all these bad things that would happen, like my mind was totally consumed with not being present and not enjoying my babies and not enjoying like motherhood. I was too consumed by coming off that present moment and living in the future, where we know that anxiety, fear and worry exists. And I was just plagued by that, and that then started to manifest in a lot of physical symptoms: tingly head, tingly face, palpitations, getting regular trips to the accident and emergency, thinking I was having a heart attack and I was dying when it was a panic attack. And yeah, it was a really, really dark and horrible stage in my life. And that's obviously a way back then. And that's what took me on a journey to starting to find out, okay, what can I do right now? What can I do to help manage my own anxiety? And I would say that for the past probably 10 years, my anxiety has been at a really manageable level. A bit like you, like I think when you've got anxiety and you get a lot of that kind of like physical energy and things in your body, I will sometimes, especially when my period's due, or like I'm in that time of my month, my progesterone's peaking, I will still get some physical anxiety. However, because I now know how to manage my mind and manage all my thoughts, I no longer get that kind of catastrophizing and the worrying and that kind of horrible, horrible thoughts.
I think anxiety is a manifestation of, say, maybe a collection of particular thoughts about the future that is setting you off and setting you off in a really big way, and figuring out which of those thoughts is problematic and the ones that need working on. Because for me, anxiety comes up when I feel that I'm too busy, or that I'm getting overwhelmed, I'm not going to be able to handle it. And basically the fear of, I guess, what is going to happen if I can't
Yeah.
handle it. That's it for me. I don't know, like how would you sum it up for, well, for yourself or maybe for other people, to make it something manageable that they can go, right, that's what I'm tackling? Because I think
Yeah.
I think anxiety can just be, again, it's so overwhelming in and of itself that
Of
it
course
can
it
just,
is.
it just
Of
feels
course
like
it is.
you're in a cloud, and what the fuck do I do with that?
Absolutely. And I think, like, obviously, especially like in one-to-one therapy, right, it's really important because we try and work out what kind of anxiety, right? Like, I don't like to think about anxiety being in types, but however, like in therapy, we look at, obviously, is it social anxiety? Is it embarrassment of what other people think of you? Is it
Right.
panic disorder? Is it agoraphobia, when you're obviously frightened to go out to places like supermarkets or being like in hairdressers? It's really important to kind of find out more about, because there's specific thoughts and specific symptoms that then correlate with those different types of OCD or panic, whatever it may be. However,
Got you.
when we think about anxiety being in a general sense, right, like we all need to feel anxious, right? We all need to have anxiety. It's a very, very normal response that's there to keep us all safe, right? So when we're in that survival primitive part of our brain, when we're away back in our cavemen and cavewomen days, we had to scan the environment, right? We had to be looking into the future to be thinking, oh my goodness, is that tiger going to come and eat me? Or my baby's going to be safe round about this campfire, right? It was a very normal response. So we've now come forward all of these billions of years, right? And we're trying to manage our lives, which are a million miles an hour. We've got social media, we've got jobs, we've got children, right? We're no longer just sitting in our little caves around our campfire. We're trying to manage our lives. And ultimately, our survival, our anxiety brain is not equipped for that. So we're trying to navigate this life with this old kind of computer system that still doesn't allow us to manage anxiety. So for me, anxiety is something that we all experience at times, but for some people it's a normal response, a bit like feeling happy and laughing, or feeling sad for a moment and it passes. However, when our anxiety starts to get stuck and we start to get in that loop cycle of negative thoughts, physical symptoms, more anxiety, and we get stuck in that survival brain when we're constantly scanning the environment, that's when it starts to really suck, and that's when it starts to take over your life. And to me, that's kind of comparing normal anxiety to this kind of stuck and this problematic anxiety.
I love all of that. Like, I don't know why, I just don't think I'd ever really even thought about it in the terms of phobias, and just that it is about fear of what could happen.
Of course
And
it is. Because if you
that's
think about
it.
it, absolutely. So for anybody that's listening, right, like we know in therapy, when we talk about anxiety, right, we know it's when we can't feel anxious, right? We can't have panic or fear or anxiety without first having the thoughts about anxiety, fear, or panic. So we know that if we're feeling anxiety or panic or fear, we have to start looking at it. All begins with thoughts, right? And that's when obviously a lot of the manifestation stuff and a lot of the things about, oh, think positive and just like do your mantras that you don't have anxiety, that you're feeling really calm. That's when it needs to start being looking at it more from a kind of, if you like, scientific, right, and medical viewpoint, in that unless you know how to start to manage those thoughts and change your relationship with those thoughts inside your head, which means that you do not have a sense of fear or danger ahead or a threat, then you're never ever going to change away from the emotional response. You're always going to get that.
There's a lot of what I've been talking about, like in the last couple of weeks on YouTube, especially, has been about anxious attachment. So I predominantly sit as anxiously attached in relationships,
Yep.
and then have like a fear of, basically, I guess it's rejection and abandonment, and that I'm going to get pushed away. And that comes up for so many people because they're manifesting specific people, so they're obviously scared. What does it mean if I don't get my person? And it's the same with manifestation. Like, loads of people, the reason why they're obsessed with their manifestation is because they've got a fear of what it means about them, or what it means about
Oh,
their life if they don't get it. So actually, so many people don't realize that they're manifesting from a very anxious, manic space.
absolutely. But it's just
And
never then going to give them the results they want.
exactly. So what do you feel, for you personally, when you started this journey, what were some of the things that really helped you with starting to get that anxiety under control again?
Oh my goodness, like 100% for me, it was learning meditation, right?
Right.
Like 100%. So like I can do all my different therapy techniques and all my different things in sessions with people and in my membership. However, for me, the one thing that I say to everybody, because you can learn it on your own, right, is learn how to understand that the relationship between who we are, this, and I talk about it like in my book, I talk about the now step. So the now step to me is that moment of wonder, right? It's that wow moment when your baby's born, or you climb up to the top of a hill and you look out over the sea and you go, wow, right? It's that present moment, which we're not used to living in, right? Because that crazy lady voice inside her head, or that crazy man voice inside your head, doesn't want you to stay present, right? She either pulls you into the future, so she's making you think about things that are going to be happening 5 minutes from now, 5 weeks from now, 5 years from now. Oh, what if? Oh, what could? What should? You're going to get anxiety, fear, and worry. Similarly, she doesn't, or he doesn't like us to stay here. She likes to take us backwards into the past. So it might be replaying a conversation from 10 minutes ago, right? It might be me later on after this podcast going, oh no, I shouldn't have said that to Esther, right? Why? Why did I tell her the truth about how much I struggled with breastfeeding, right? Or something like that, right? When we go back over and replay conversations, right? Or go back and replay, like, my mother-in-law passed away a month ago, right? If you go back to like the funeral and when you're at things like that, it's going to show up as sadness, regret, guilt, or depression, right? So for me, the biggest thing and a game changer has been learning how to not engage. So my crazy lady voice still will try and say to me, oh, maybe you shouldn't have said that. But it's about learning how do we recognize that we have these 100,000 thoughts every day, but how do we not turn them into thinking? How do we not engage and start adding arms and legs? How do we notice a thought coming in and be like, okay, actually, I'm deciding to be here in the present moment?
And not giving truth to it, because that's
Absolutely.
it, is it?
Because
We do that so much.
absolutely, because I think as well, when you're the voice of anxiety, right, or when you're the voice of OCD or depression, right, you think you are this voice, right? It feels like it is you, and it's so scary. Now, they thoughts about things happening to your family, your kids, or your health anxiety, they seem totally real, and it's really, really scary. And it's about being able to recognize that actually our hair, right, grows, our nails grow, right? Our mind, our thoughts are just like that. They're energy that move through our body, right? We can't wake up and be like, oh damn, I'm fed up going and getting my nails done £35 every couple of weeks. I want them just to stop growing, right? Unfortunately, we can't do that with our minds either, right? Our minds move with shit, with worry, with good, bad, happy, or sad thoughts. However, the power in us is to start recognizing at that point we're able to go, there's another thought, another crazy thought.
Yeah.
Who am I going to who am I going to push into the middle of the road today when I'm walking down the street? Or am I going to drive my car off the fourth road bridge as I'm driving? Like, we all have these thoughts,
Yeah.
but just not everybody's brave enough to say, actually, yeah, I've thought about pushing my husband off in the train tracks. Like, oh, what does that mean about me as a person? Oh my God, I'm a murderer. No, actually, you're just human. Your mind's crazy like that. However,
Yeah.
we then need to learn not to start making attachments. So when we have a really scary thought about something bad that we're going to do, that's going to happen, we're able in that moment to be like, actually, I'm choosing to come back to the now step, back to the present moment. I'm not turning that thought into thinking.
What? Oh my God. Honestly, for a start, Lynn, you're just bloody hilarious. Like, I literally nearly was like crying then with laughter, like so, so much. I think I can completely resonate with you about what you said, to go in. I'll look back on things and go, oh, should I said that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
was that right? Like, I'll do that a lot. And I'm really, really working on not attaching to those thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and then also just kind of going, you know what, if you did, you did. Like, and try to just go, I'm at peace with what I have done.
Absolutely, it
And
is what it is, and there's nothing
yeah,
apart. The only thing you're going to do by going over stuff in the past, right,
yeah,
is fill your stress bucket and give yourself more anxiety, depression, OCD, bulimia, however your mental health shows
yeah,
up for you, right? And it's about
yeah.
having that. when you notice your mind, when you notice yourself going back over things in the past, like, and I get this, I used to take my
Mm.
children to school late in the morning because every day, if I went when it was school drop off time, I
Mm.
would speak to all the mums and I'd get back in the car and be like, oh my God, why did I tell them that I bought a new coat yesterday in Asda's? Oh my goodness, why did I tell them this? Right. And I would play over this stuff over and over in my mind all day long. Right. Now, all your listeners will be doing that continuously. So what happens with that is we then end up taking that past stuff that's filling our stress bucket, we take it through the rest of our whole days. And we're driving the car and we're still chatting to the person we met in the school playground, or no, right? We don't have time for that because we need
No.
to prioritize if we want our mental health to be good, if we don't want to feel anxiety and have panic attacks and whatever else it looks like, or have low moods, you need to be able to say to yourself, right, I've got two choices right now. I can regret what I said and I can go back over it again and I can bring it up time and time again, or I can prioritize that I want to be mentally well, which means I need to drop it and get back on the now step.
Yeah, it absolutely can just consume your day. There's been things where I just go, right, okay, do I want to give this my energy? Is this worth my energy? Is me
Absolutely.
going over this in my mind, creating a solution? Probably not. Like it's
No, because
just
we think we
self
can't.
talk
We think
now.
we can make because the primitive, that crazy lady voice in her head, she thinks that she can find us solutions because our only job is to keep us alive, right? So no matter what we're doing in life, right, her only job is to make sure that we survive. So that is why she'll never ever make you think positively. She'll always want you to future project and catastrophize just in case, so you're prepared if the worst thing
Yeah,
happens. But we don't have time in our lives to have that voice continuously everywhere with us. And
exhausting.
it works the same with the manifestation, right? And obviously, this is your thing more than it is mine. However, if your listeners are trying to manifest stuff, however, they're getting caught up with this anxiety voice and they're taking that through the rest of the day with them, that's what they're manifesting. They're not manifesting that um, great life or that new house that they go or that new partner. They're manifesting these same emotions and these same horrible feelings.
They are because you're just like it's the thing of what you give your focus to is what grows, and it doesn't matter if you're going, I want this thing over here, but if, as long as you're staying focused on
Mm-hmm.
all of the other stuff, even if you are trying to find a solution, actually most of the time you're not creating a solution, you are just still sat in the energy of all of the problems
Of
and
course.
and spinning and spiraling and giving it all meaning and truth. And one of
Yeah.
the biggest one for me, one of the biggest things that I've been sort of saying to people and to myself
Yeah.
is I don't have to be scared of my thoughts, because I think this is what a lot of people think now is thoughts create things. So I need to be scared of what is running through my head, because then, like you said, you get the guilt and the shame of like, oh my God, I thought about pushing my husband on the train tracks. Oh my God, like shit's about to hit the fan.
Yeah.
All of
And
this.
it's not, it's
Oh,
only energy moving through your
yeah,
body. It's only a thought. It's
yeah. And
nothing to
it's,
be scared of.
but it's for me, it's also going, okay, but you, to me, action is probably the bigger creator there. Like you don't act on all these thoughts. So to me it's like it's if you start acting on the
Absolutely.
negative thoughts, then you are going to see that start playing out somehow in life, because you've created this ripple effect. But then also for me it's also what you don't act on. So it's that anxiety of like, I'm not going to show up on social media, I'm not going to do this because I'm scared of that inaction is also not creating new results. So I think you have to ask yourself, like,
Of course it is.
who do I want to be, and how does that person show up? what are their
Absolutely.
what are their positive behaviors, what are the behaviors they don't engage in,
Mhm.
and then how can I drop this anxiety or move out of this so that I can step back into my most empowered self.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think like one of the things that I kind of heard you talking about in there is almost more behaviour. So again, that's something that's really important to look at in regards to managing mental health and anxiety in
Mm.
particular, because what happens is we obviously like we talk as well about in CBT, like we talk about the three different areas, our thoughts and our emotions, which are directly linked to our behaviours. So if we're in a loop cycle of anxious, negative thoughts and getting panic attacks and anxiety, there's a good chance that our behaviours that we're doing are going to we either call them avoidance behaviour. So we're doing things to avoid anxiety, like maybe not going to the bread aisle in the supermarket because that's away around the furthest bit of the shop, or avoiding the hairdressers because we know we're going to get panic attacks there, right? Or we're adding in safety behaviour. So we're doing behaviours that we know that are going to help us to stay safe. So for some people, that might be carrying bottles of water around because they always feel sick, or it might be having to make sure their mum's available or their partner's there to go to GP appointments with them. So it's important for people to be able to understand that it's not everything just in their mind that's causing this. It's the fact that the behaviours they're doing are then feeding back into the thoughts and feeding back into the emotions and
Yeah.
keeping them really, really stuck in this cycle.
Do you feel as well that different, I guess it's different strokes for different folks? Do you feel like meditation worked for you but might not be for everyone else, and that everybody needs to kind of maybe explore and find what is their own thing?
My experience, and this is obviously from like 15 years professionally, obviously working with
Right.
people as like with anxiety, and obviously my own personal journey, is that everybody can benefit from doing meditation.
Okay.
However, right, people often confuse it too much, right? Or they make it too, because people will be like, oh no, my mind's too busy, I can't meditate, or I just, and it's
Sure.
like, well, you're missing the point, right? Yes, your mind's going to be busy. When we meditate, our minds will still be busy, right? We're not, even the Buddhist monks, right, that go and spend 2 years living in an ashram, they're never trying to get rid of their thoughts when they're meditating,
Mm.
right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to understand and get some distance and to get peace with our thoughts. So, like
Mm.
we've just said, if you're sitting meditating and you get a thought that comes up about, I don't know, maybe a boyfriend that we had a way back 20 years ago, right? It's a bit like our dreams at night time, right? How often do you have a dream about something really crazy that happened the night before, right? Like, oh my God, I ran away with my next door neighbour's husband, right? It was a thought, it was a dream. We certainly don't get up in the morning and be like, next door neighbour, I've got my suitcase, right? Let's go. We're running away together, right? So our dreams at night time, we take them as being dreams and being, oh my God, that was a bit crazy last night. However, for some reason, we're not taught that during the course of the day, if we get
Mm.
dreams about things that are not nice or horrible, or
Mm.
they're only thoughts, right? And that's when we're meditating. The more you can sit, and even if you start doing it for 5 minutes, right? And like,
Mm.
there's so many different ways to meditate on your breath, or like using more kind of like grounding words. If you can
Mm.
start to sit there and recognize sometimes when you're meditating that you're getting this really crazy thought about something that's like, you wonder where's that come from, and you're able to either give it a number and let it pass on by, or
Mm.
to use one of the meditation techniques that you get taught to let it pass on by, you have this sense of, oh, well, wait a minute, I never engaged with that thought there. So then when I'm out in my work or my mind starts, the crazy lady starts giving me these really strange thoughts, I've got the tools and understanding that I don't need to engage with it then either.
Mm. I just think what you said then is absolute gold. Even if you just encapsulate it as, you don't give your night dreams that much power, so why would you give your daydreams
Because
more?
they're no different, right? It's our minds. Our survival brain is a thought making machine, right? That's its only job, is to
Yes.
give us thoughts. And no
Yes.
wonder everybody's so messed up in the world, and so like mental health is such a bad place because nobody actually understands the basic principles of, like, well, if we're engaging with all those thoughts that we get in a day and we're turning them into thinking and we're holding on to them as if they actually mean something true about us,
Mm.
no wonder we're all feeling so anxious and stressed and miserable all the time. No wonder.
Yeah.
No
Uh,
wonder.
that's the what probably like one of the biggest phrases I hate that's probably come out of like the, whether you want to call it like law of attraction or self-development
Mm,
movement, of like thoughts are facts. No, thoughts are not facts. Like they're only facts if you decide that they are. Like, you don't have to absolutely subscribe to every single thing that
absolutely.
flits through your brain.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I often say this as well to my clients, right? And to people that like the social media's got a lot to answer for because we're brought up in an environment that it's like you're empowered, like you control your thoughts, right? You're in control of your thoughts. Now, that's not true, right? We are not in control of our thoughts. We never know. Our thoughts are random, right? So if your listeners all do this for a minute, right? If we really stop and be super present and we watch our minds, this mind that moves 100,000 times a day with all this stuff it gives us, if we stop and be really present, do we ever actually know what we're going to think next? Do you know? So just have a moment, because your mind will try and tell you, your mind will be like, yeah, I'm thinking about my lunch, but just strip it right back and be like, okay, do I know exactly what I'm going to think next?
No.
Okay, so we don't. So what does that tell us about these thoughts that make us feel crazy and anxious? What does it tell us about the nature of them?
But for me, it's that it's just temporary. Like it's not,
Absolutely. They're random things, right?
yeah,
They're
so
random.
random.
They're energy. They're temporary, right? We do not control the thoughts that come into our awareness because it comes from our subconscious. Comes
Mm,
from all our core beliefs and our rules and assumptions and all the things that have happened a way back when we were younger, right? We've all got a past. So these thoughts just come up because it's memories. We smell something, we get a thought about somebody passing away. We
mm,
hear a song on the radio. So our thoughts, we do not control our thoughts. However, the place where we do start to have a choice, and this is where we can start making massive changes in our mental health, is at that point when we consciously turn that thought into thinking.
mm,
So a thought comes in about, oh my, like, and it happened to me like last summer. I was going away to B&M's to get stuff for Simon because he had hay fever, and I looked upstairs and my son's bedroom window was like wide open. He pushed it open, right, and my crazy lady voice was like, oh my goodness, Toby's going to jump out that window. He's going to splat on the concrete. Right, I could hear the ambulance in that coming, and I was like, Lynn, right, that is a thought, right? That's your crazy lady. That does not mean anything true. It doesn't mean it's going to happen in the future, right? It's a thought. So leave it where it is. And I was like, crazy lady, get in the back of the car and get your seatbelt on, right? Because you're not coming with me to B&M's. And off I went that day to B&M's, never gave it another thought because I know how to manage my mind. If that had been me 10 years ago and I'd heard, like, had all those thoughts about I'm jumping out the window, I would have been back in the house. I would have been taping up the windows. I would have been telling Toby he had to come with me. I would have been in a total different space. So
mm,
that's the difference, right? We can recognize that they're just thoughts and we can learn techniques and tools not to turn them into thinking,
mm,
to stay present, to go on with our day. Because when we're present in that now state, we don't have room for anxiety, stress, OCD, panic disorder, because we're here.
mm. I think it's like seeing it as almost just a conveyor belt of things coming through your mind, and you can just leave things on the belt to pass through. And
I love that. You can, absolutely.
yeah, just
Absolutely.
why are you picking up that one? Like,
Exactly, absolutely. And it's having that awareness though in that moment to be like, okay, I'm just going to sit. I'm having lots of these thoughts right now. And like you say, write them down or imagine them being on a conveyor belt or imagine them floating down a river as little rocks on little leaves, right?
mm,
You have that choice which one of those you're going to pick up. Might be none
mm,
of them. You might decide to put on some music or to read a book and to distract yourself for a little while.
mm,
So you might miss half the thoughts. They might
mm,
come back an hour later once you're actually again in that place of anxiety again. You might get the thoughts coming back, but you've still got that power to choose. Actually, I want to manifest my life to be present here. I want to be content. That's one of the things when I had anxiety, I always just felt I was never content. It was always this
mm.
feeling of I've got all this, but I just feel this constant like anxiety. So
Yes.
your listeners can choose to start to manifest for this contentment and this place of not thinking,
Mm,
and in that space is where they'll find their perfect partner. They'll
mm,
find their ideal job. They'll find that they start to find the joy in life again because they're not engaging with all this noise and all this kind of energy that's trying to pull them into the future or the past.
mm. For me, like, because I think obviously like meditation or meditative experiences are like, it's exactly what you said. Like some people can reach that with breath work, other people it's through guided meditation or like transcendental and all of these
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Like for me, that some of the most like meditative things that I do are when I play piano, or for me, it's when I do like a jigsaw. All I am doing is engaging with
Yeah,
like, and
absolutely.
it for me, it's an opportunity to just, like you say, empty your mind. Random thoughts are going to come in, but in that space, like you just kind of let them, I just let them float on by. I think the more people can already start to engage with that self-awareness piece of, I don't have to attach to these thoughts and
Absolutely.
believe them.
Absolutely.
I think that
Absolutely.
immediately for me creates like bam, a big, big pause. But I
And
think,
it's such a simple way to live, right? And
yeah,
it's in the beginning, right? Like when you try and explain it to people, people are often a bit like, oh no, that'll never work for me. And I can't, yes, it will, right? Because
well,
actually
yeah.
it's so simple, right? It's so simple. However, we're not taught it in schools, and it's not something that's like our minds are crazy, but we are the ones that actually, when we start to learn that there's a distance between us and our thoughts, we're able to come back to that. And
Mm,
like meditation, like I teach it and I teach how to do it eyes open. So people don't need to be sitting with their legs crossed, right? And like their mudra fingers or anything like that, right? You can do eyes open meditation. You can meditate when you're out for a walk. You can meditate when you're sitting on the bus. And the more, it's like you said there, the more time in a day, like we're not always able to sit all day long and do fishing or to do jigsaws or to bake the things that are mindful. However, if we learn a way, and you can learn it in 5 or 10 minutes, right? It's not rocket science. If you learn a way that you can meditate as you're washing your dishes, in between seeing clients, when you're driving the car to go and pick your kids up from school, if you can find a way that's going to stop you engaging with all those thoughts and keep you present, then that's more time in your day that you're present and less time that you're anxiety girl.
and that's it. And then again, the more time you're present with, then when you do are able to create that separation, and then you have a thought that comes through that you are like, I actually want to
Mm-hmm.
give this my presence, then
Yeah.
you could say, great, now I'm, that's literally the phrase, now I am consciously creating, rather
Mm-hmm.
than basically unconsciously creating based on just whatever the hell has ruminated through my brain that I've decided I'm gonna
Totally.
I'm gonna give a lot of power and meaning to. I
And
think
I'm
as
going
well,
to try and fix, like we often, it's like
yeah.
when you get thoughts like that. And I think something that's quite helpful to for your readers to understand as well is, right, when we talk about like general anxiety disorder, right, we're talking about like chains of worries. So again, general anxiety disorder has obviously got different symptoms and something like OCD or social anxiety. So general anxiety disorder is when people perhaps don't get panic attacks, but they've just constantly got these worries that turn into, oh well, what if and what if and what if and what if, right? So there's a difference, right? We can problem solve when something's an actual worry. So let's say that we don't have enough money in our bank to pay our bills for the month, right? We can problem solve on that.
Mm,
However, when we're having hypothetical worries, which the majority of people that have got anxiety do have, right? It's all these what ifs. It's all these like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? We can't
mm,
problem solve on them
no,
because so what happens is then you start to go round and round in circles.
yes.
So again, it's learning how to not do these what if scenarios and not these chain of worries. Yes, you're going to have worries in your life at times, but once you start to see the difference, you can problem solve on them. And you can do
Mm,
that in a problem in a positive way. You can find a solution. But you'll never find a solution to what ifs. Never, ever, ever.
no, and I think that I know everyone goes, okay, focus on what you can control and what you can't, like you leave. But I
Mm-hmm.
think for a lot of people who've got anxiety, there's an issue there of like, and I'm speaking from experience here,
Yeah,
I'm trying to control everything so that I can so that I feel like things aren't going to spiral off literally out of my control, but you're trying to control things that like, and you're just making your life exhausting is the long story short.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what happens. It then takes its physical toll on you. And obviously you start to get fatigue or you start to feel unwell and you start to get headaches because anxiety, like, has got symptoms, but it's a, God, and your listeners will know this and you know it. Like, when we feel anxious, it's horrendous. It takes over our whole lives because it
Yeah.
starts to manifest itself in physical ways. And we're not imagining that.
No.
You're not imagining when you get that tingly head or your heart's palpitating, but you're not imagining that. Like that
Yeah.
is your body's physiological response to adrenaline being released through your system when it thinks there's danger.
Yeah.
So it's about as well. And what happens is once we start to then focus on, oh my God, my heart's racing. Oh my God, why am I feeling like this? We start to become anxious about being anxious.
It gets worse, doesn't
We
it?
start to become anxious about having a panic attack in the supermarket. It's not actually about going to the supermarket, but you're anxious about the last time that happened.
Mm,
And we really start to then we start to become more vigilant and we start to scan the environment even more for anxiety. And that's when it starts to become something that's uncontrollable. And that's obviously my job as a therapist, working with people, is to help
mm,
them understand it all and help them manage it and help them navigate it. We're never trying to get rid of anxiety. If I had a client that came in a first one-to-one appointment and we were speaking about their goals and they said, I don't want to ever have a panic attack in my life again. I don't want to ever feel sad. I don't want to ever feel anxious.
Mm,
I would need to try and educate them a little bit on, well, actually, that's not ever going to be possible, right? Because
mm,
anxiety is a normal part of life.
mm.
However, we need to get it down to a manageable level and maybe 3 out
Yeah.
of 10 constantly, right? Rather than it being at 10 out of 10 sometimes.
Yeah, and I think as well, like different life experiences like come up, like exactly what you said earlier, is like your mother-in-law passed like about a month ago, very sadly.
Yeah.
There's going to be times in life that you can't prep for, and you don't know how you're going to respond to that in the moment. And there's no
Yeah.
shame in that. But if
Yeah.
you end up back at anxiety, you have to go, okay, cool. I didn't realize this was going to affect me in this way. And
Yeah.
I need to go back to all the things that I've been, say, learning on my journey or learning with Lyn, and reapply.
Absolutely. I often say to the girls in my membership, right? Like it's like having a life jacket on, right? So I'm not special, right? Or the girls in my membership are not any more special than anybody else. However, they've taken the time and the commitment to learn the tools and techniques. So
Yeah.
like life's a stormy seas, right? Life is a shithole at times, right? We've all got things that are constantly happening, right?
Mm,
It's the way it is. My life is no different than anybody else's, right? I've got 4
mm,
kids and people like my life's always chaos on the outside. However, I manage myself on the inside to make
mm,
sure I don't feel anxious. So
mm,
if you're in a big stormy seas and you get thrown overboard on that over that boat, there's a good chance that you're going to drown. However, when you start to learn tools and techniques, whether that be meditation or whether it be other kind of like mental health tools and techniques, you've
mm.
got your life jacket on, which means you're still going to get thrown overboard, but you're going to manage to kick your wee legs and you're going to stay afloat.
Yeah.
And I walk and I talk and I eat and I sleep and I breathe. Like even last week when we were down the evening after Simon's mum's funeral, Simon and I lay in our bed that night, and like there's a thing that I talk about as well. It's like do your what's been goods. So again, it comes back to
Yes.
gratitude, right? So it's the
Yes.
whole every single day, every single evening. If people are getting panic disorder and panic attacks that are listening, even doing your what's been goods when you feel a panic attack coming on totally
Mm,
changes your brain state because it moves you away
mm,
from the negative part of the brain
mm,
into this left prefrontal cortex.
mm.
So Simon and I practice it, right? I do it every night with my children. Do your 5 good things. And even the night of his mum's funeral, we lay in bed that night and Simon was like, right, come on, tell me your 5 good things from today. Because we know, yes,
Yeah.
it was the most horrendous day and it was awful.
Yeah.
However, everybody's got stuff going on in their life. And if we're not able to
Mm,
find the little glimmers and micro pleasures in a day, right,
mm,
even when things are going so terribly wrong, we're
mm,
both going to go back into that really dark place of
mm.
depression and low mood and anxiety. And we
Yeah.
need to be the ones that are going to make sure when times are hard, we've got our life jackets on.
Yeah. When I've noticed that when I've got clients and they are what I would say is their nervous system is dysregulated and that they are not in a good place, gratitude is so important for them. And yet at the same time, God, it's like I have to force them. Like they're like, oh, you want to be grateful. I've got
Of
nothing to be grateful.
course.
Got
And
nothing to be grateful for. Like, and they say like it's hard. Like they have to kind of really go. I have to be willing to. I mean, Abraham Hicks would call it. It's like positive rampage. And when
Mhm.
like when everything obviously feels crap, it can be really hard to find the specifics. But then she'll say that like go general. Like I've got air to breathe. You know,
Of course.
I've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
hot water to have a shower. Like
yeah,
these types of things, and
yeah. Of
just you do have to just bring it back to basics and try and find the reframes,
course
the
you do.
contentment. One of my top things that I've noticed, so for me it is I've got too much to do and not
Mhm.
enough time. And usually the time thing is nonsense, Lyn. Like I don't know, it is nonsense. And
Bullshit.
me and my friend, and I've actually now one of the things I affirm is like I'm a time bender. And I get things done really quick. But my friend and I are like really working on it at the minute where she'll just say like, I'm having a social week full of love, and I'm lucky to have so many nice things going on in my diary and
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And we've just cut the word busy out of our thing.
Vocabulary.
Yeah, because I've noticed that the more I go, God, I'm so busy, the more it comes with this energy of I'm overwhelmed and there's no time for me. And it's like there's all these other little meanings that come with that. So now, I mean, I write massive to-do lists every day, and I do get a thought come in and go, fucking hell, like Like, because I'll go, right, this looks all right, and then I'll go, shit, got to do that, and I've got to do that, and then my brain just now again put the pause in, and I go, right, I go, yeah, not going there, not going to
Yeah,
spiral off on
yeah.
how am I going to get that all done, and I just get present with each task, and
Mhm.
bang, 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 they all get done, and then I get to the end of the day and go, I don't know what all the fuss was about, but it was my thoughts telling me there's something to make a fuss of, and it's
Course, it's all that I
nonsense.
should and I must and all these things in regards to it's listening to that
Crazy.
crazy lady voice inside your head. Like there's a woman right now walking the UK for charity for like the Mental Health Mind charity, and
Mm.
she's walking 26 miles a day, right? A marathon a day. She's done it from March to December, right? So,
Wow.
but yeah, I don't have time to walk my dog, right? Like it's like, come on, right? Like busy's
I
again,
know.
busy is a concept we create when we come off that
Yes.
present moment, right? It's a time as a concept, right? And again, who are the fools, right? Everybody's coming and doing private appointments, or people are going and like seeing mental health professionals in regards to managing their mental health. But I'll often say to them, right, like, okay, so when was the last time you actually laughed, or like, what makes your heart sing? When's the last time you really
Right.
did something? Oh, like I can't even think. A way back, like maybe last year or something like that. Like we need to start creating our own energy and our own space. And that only comes sometimes. And listen, some people do need more support. And that's why people need to go and get one-to-one therapy. Not everybody's able. I wasn't able to do it on my own. I had to get that support away
Mm,
back then. But
mm,
for it is achievable for every single person that's listening right now to
yeah.
know and understand and believe that yes, when you're totally overwhelmed with mental health, it is the worst place in the world to be. I remember sitting one day when I was still, so I left my husband. So I've got another partner now, but when I was married at the time, he wasn't very supportive. And like, obviously, a lot of my anxiety and things probably came from that. And I remember sitting on the end of my bed one day when the kids were all tiny and like almost like rocking myself because I was so consumed with anxiety, thinking somebody's going to have to take me away to a mental institution. Like, that's how scared I was and that's how bad it was. And like all these years forward, I can't actually imagine, I can't remember that feeling of being sitting on my bed that day until I actually think about it because we forget the bad place we were in. So why I'm saying that is for anybody that's listening, reach out and speak to people or go and see your doctor, or like there's nobody in the world that needs to be suffering right now, because actually when you learn how to manage mental health in a simple way like the way I do it, it's actually not as complicated as you think.
No, my mental health used to be shocking. Like, I think especially it kicked in when my mum died. And then there just wasn't any support. And then it really fractured my relationship with my dad. And then I like obviously with then having like anxious attachment, all my then relationships with men were like
Yeah,
shocking. And
yeah.
then I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And then I'd end up in like situations that would be creating an incredible amount of stress, and just didn't know
Mm.
how to deal with any of it other than to go to the doctors and get some pills.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I just think now I go, gosh, like my heart goes out to that version of me, but at the same time I go, God, like I'm not that person at all anymore.
Yeah.
And I think to anyone who's really going through it, is that this is a very cheesy phrase, but it's like this too shall pass, or I'll say this too can pass. Like this is
Yeah.
not, this doesn't need to be a permanent state for
Yeah.
anybody. And absolutely go speak to your GP, speak to people like Lyn, go get support. Because I think if you've never done it on your own, it can be hard, but you can do it on your own. Like, it just depends
Mhm.
where you're at, and if you've got, the right tools and support to
Absolutely.
do it.
Absolutely.
Lyn, how can people find you? How can they work with you, connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. People can find me obviously on Instagram or on Facebook as the Anxiety Expert UK. They can buy my book from either Amazon or Waterstones, which is called The Now Step: Manage Your Mental Health Without Going Over the Past. And I also have my monthly membership where we have loads going on in there. Like, we've got somatic sessions, like a somatic coach, we've got meditation coach, we've got a breathwork coach. There's lots of things happening. And obviously I'm in there with all my online courses and things that people obviously get to take part in. So they can obviously get in touch with me through social media and find out more about my membership. It's really low cost because to me, I'm all about supporting people to help them manage their mental health without the kind of massive tag cost it can be to get one-to-one private therapy.
It's tricky, isn't it? It's a a tricky one, particularly here in the UK anyway, because we're very blessed to have our NHS, but you go let's be real, you go to the doctors and they're like, okay, well, it's a year's wait for like something.
I think it's longer up here in Scotland. I think at the minute it's 18 months to 2 years, Esther,
Yeah.
and that's what people are waiting on to get
Yeah.
CBT or to get obviously therapy. And then the thing is, they go and get the therapy, and often or not, it's maybe just group work, or it's like it's low intensity, so they get 6 sessions. Whereas in order for us to be able to deliver like proper CBT, we need to be working at all like the behaviours, we need to be working on the emotions and the feelings, and it can take 10, 12, 14, 16 sessions. So again, for people, there's a massive financial pool, but there are other options out there for people, like, for example, my low-cost membership, that if people have not got that financial commitment, they can come and try something like that first.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it, though, is like for most people, they're like, I haven't got, or they certainly will feel at that time, they're like, I haven't got 2 years to feel like this. I need to make a change now.
Yeah,
and that's the power of now, like the power of now.
It is, and I think even people reaching out, right, and getting a little bit of support, whether it's from you, whether it's from me, I think the minute people start to come into an environment beside people that that understand them, and people that are not judging their thoughts and their feelings and their emotions, they get them, right, they can relate to them. It can be life-changing, right? Even people coming into my community where there's other people, we're all talking in the portal and things like that about obviously what anxiety looks like and the things we struggle with. Even having that, oh my goodness, right? Like people understand me, because when I was in my bad stage, my husband at the time never had a clue. He never got it at all. And he used to look at me as if I had horns coming at my head. When I would be like, oh, you need to put a fence around the garden, or oh no, I can't do that, right? But like I get it. And I think for surround yourself by people that understand, because it makes your journey so much easier.
I think it's validating, and I think it's liberating. Guys, we thank you for being here and listening to this episode. Thank you, Lyn, for being here and for delivering all this incredible, valuable information on manifesting happiness. Guys, if you want to go connect with Lyn, obviously all of her links will be in the podcast description, so you can go and check her out. And hopefully Lyn's husband won't listen to this and start thinking, my missus is going to throw me on the train tracks and run off with the neighbour.
Well, he's now divorced, so I can maybe still be thinking that. He's now gone.
Guys, thank you for listening, and we will catch you soon for the next episode. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Bye.